जय गोपीजना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Radha Sham Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Gauranithai 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 Jaya Gauranithai. Nithai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada.
कलुपान हरिनाम संकीर्तन की, ग्रंथराज भगवद गीता की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। So Hare Krishna, this evening we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, verse number 37. यथेधांसि संसिद्धोर यथाधांसि संसिद्धोर अग्निर्भस्मता कुरुते अर्जुना अग्निर्भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुना ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा यथेधांसि संसिद्धो अग्निर् भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुन ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा यथेधांसि संसिद्धोऽग्निर् भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुन ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा। यथा संसिद्धोरग्निर् भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुन ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा। यथेधांसि संसिद्धोऽग्निर् भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुन ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा। माता जी कोई है? यथेधांसि संसिद्धो अग्निर् भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुन ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुन। यथा, just as, एधांसि firewood, samsiddha blazing, agni fire, bhasmasat ashes, kurute turns, arjuna o arjuna, jnana agni the fire of knowledge, sarva karmani all reactions to material activities, bhasmasat to ashes, kurute it turns, tatha similarly. Translation purported by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burns to ashes all reactions to material activities. Purport. Perfect knowledge of self and super self and of their relationship is compared herein to fire. This fire not only burns up all reactions to impious activities, but also reactions to pious activities, turning them to ashes. There are many stages of reaction. Reaction in the making, reaction fructifying, reaction already achieved, and reaction a priori, but knowledge of the constitutional position of living entity burns everything to ashes. When one is in complete knowledge, all reactions, both a priori and posteriori, are consumed. In the Vedas, Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 4.4.22, it is stated, Ubhe Udayam Swaete Taratya Amritha Sadhava Idhamsi Ni. One overcomes both the pious and impious reactions of work. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunamlitamena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam Cha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So again a very beautiful verse. So here Lord Krishna explains about fire of knowledge. All of you know the nature of fire. Fire, it burns everything. So in yesterday's verse, Krishna, he told that even if one is more sinful, when one is situated in the transcendental knowledge, Krishna explains, one will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So now material world, what we see, ocean, is not so easy to cross the ocean. So anyone knows how many days it took Prabhupada to go to America? How many days Prabhupada was in the ship? Nowadays the jumbo jets, they can fly 18-19 hours. But in bygone days, that time, about 50 years back, Prabhupada went by steamship. So anyone knows how many days it took Prabhupada to reach New York from India? 34 days. It took 34 days. So now here you can imagine that Krishna explains that if one is situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross the ocean of material miseries. Now if we see the Vedic knowledge, anyone knows the Muslims, they burnt one big library in India, Nalanda, long back, maybe 300-400 years back. So it is mentioned that it was burning for months and months. So many literatures were burnt. So whatever it is, there is no end to knowledge. So Vedanta means there is no end in one sense. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Vedesya sarver aham eva vedyam. So here Lord Krishna is explaining that by the knowledge of the self, super self, and our relationship with the Lord, so what it will do, it will burn all sinful reactions. Now we should know we have one relationship with the Lord. So it can be Shantaras, Dasaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalaras or Madhuriras. That can be only established just before leaving this material body. So in Bhagavatam there is a verse which mentions Muktir Hitva Anyata Rupam Swarupena Vyavasthiti. Muktir Hitva Anyata Rupam. Now we are in this body of 24 elements. This body is made of 24 elements, but the spiritual body is totally different. It is Satchidananda, and spiritual body we have one Siddha Swarup. What we see every day in the mirror, that is not our real self. What we are grooming every day, taking so much care of this body. Also in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned, to whom does this body belong? Anyone can answer? Whom does this body belong? The mother, father, the son or daughter for fire. Ultimately the fire will consume. As per our Vedic system, the dead body is burnt. In other religions, they either they burn, some they offer to the birds, some they drown in the river. There are different ways, whatever it is. Now, here Krishna explains, by that knowledge of the self, super self, and our relationship will burn all sinful reactions, either good or bad. So, material world, basically karma is divided into three categories, but there are main two categories, good karma, bad karma. So Krishna explains both good and bad karmas, they will be, the reactions will be burnt off. And if we see in modern world, today's modern world, so everyone is in identity crisis. Identity crisis means everyone thinks that whatever religion he is professing, that is the supreme. What they think is what we will not go in depth. So people are being led by blind leaders. Andhanukaran, the blind leading the blind, they fall in a ditch. So now if we see here, Lord Krishna is telling how our pious and sinful reactions will be eradicated. So the living entities are divided into three categories. One is Pap Yoni, Karma Yoni and Bhoga Yoni. So Pap Yoni means all the living entities, all trees, creepers, birds, insects, four-legged animals, whatever it is. So they are called, because they are suffering, they are in the karma cycle. Karmana Daivi Netrena Jantur Deho Upapadyate. Like if you are employed in a government office, so every 3 years or 2 years or maybe every 6 months you will be transferred from one place to another place. Merry-go-round. So similarly, once we lose the human form of life, so Krishna explains Karanam Guna Sangasya Sad Asad Yonisu Janmasu. So the first is called Papa Yoni. Like Prabhupada gives one nice example. Can anyone tell what Prabhupada gives an example for Papa Yoni? If somebody has read Prabhupada books, a very simple example Prabhupada has given. Can anyone quote what is Papa Yoni? Okay, I told trees, animals and all. So Prabhupada explains the trees, they drink water from their legs. Can we drink water with our legs? No. So the root of the tree, they are legs. Okay. So the trees, they are standing on the root and they have to take all their nutrients, water, whatever, that comes from the root. And what is the root? That is their leg. So then also Prabhupada gives the example of a hog. So is there anyone who can convince a hog not to eat? What Prabhupada says, if you give a hog halwa, he will say no, I don't like it. So the first category is called Pap Yoni because they are suffering for their previous sinful reactions. Now there are some countries, they are on the verge of bankruptcy. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, they are on the verge of bankruptcy. They are selling their big institutions, whatever it is. So then comes Karma Yoni, that we human beings on the material earth, we are called Karma Yoni because we can't live without doing any activity. So from the moment we get up in the morning till the time we go to bed, we are creating so many good and bad karmas. Okay, everything is being recorded. Yamraj has 13 cameras. We may have one CCTV or 2 or 4, whatever it is. So Yamraj has 13 witnesses mentioned in the Bhagavatam 6th canto. So then third category is called Bhoga Yoni. This is under the Bhoga Yoni, the Danavas and Daityas, the demons and demigods, in the heavenly planets, Prabhupada writes, there are different gardens, Nandan Kanan, there are Apsaras, there is no dearth, one can go on enjoying unlimited. But in material world, how much one can eat? Rasgulla, Rasmalai, Rabdi, how much? After certain time you say, enough, enough. But there you can go on, endless. But there also one time will come, everything will come to an end. Okay? So now, today, the main theme of today's lecture is that knowledge of self and super self and their relation will burn everything to ashes. And if we see in our scriptures, there are different types of Agnis mentioned. Agnis means fire. Okay? So now we'll just go through certain Agnis. So first is Jatra Agni. Anyone knows what is Jatra Agni? Digestive fire. So Bhima was the Vrukodar. Even Krishna told at least he should fast once a year. We call Bhim Nirjala Ekadasi, isn't it? So then we have Viraha Agni. Viraha, can anyone understand? Can anyone tell what is Viraha Agni? Fire of separation. This is felt by the gopis and Radharani. There is one pastime at Govardhan. If you go to Govardhan, we have to take darshan. Unless you take darshan of the Lord at Haridev, your Giriraj Parikrama is considered as incomplete. So there is mention that actually Jiv Goswami in Gopal Champu, he writes, when Krishna he left Vrindavan, he went to Mathura. Radharani got into a big dilemma. She completely got like mad, and she was running here and there looking for Krishna. Krishna kotha hai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to rub his head, body on the wall when he was in Gambhira. So similarly, Radharani, when she got the news Krishna has left Vrindavan, she totally got mad. And it is mentioned that the fire of separation that was causing her so much misery that when she went to Mansi Ganga, so that time Mansi Ganga was 2 yojana. So because of the heat of Radharani's body, so Mansi Ganga became a small puddle, small lake. And Giriraji, it is mentioned that Giriraji that time was 2 miles height. Actually, when Giriraji was brought to Vrindavan, who bought Giriraji? Somebody from here? Pulasya Muni. He bought in Satyuga. So that time Giriraji was 2 yojana, 16 miles in Satyuga. So by the time Krishna was doing his earthly pastimes, Giriraji had already gone down by 14 miles. Okay. What happened when Radharani went on top of Giriraj? So Giriraji could not bear the Radharani's separation. So in utter disgust, Giriraji shrank. He stayed 100 hands above the earth. So now we can imagine that Giriraji, he completely went into the earth. This is what is mentioned. So there are many pastimes related to gopis. It's called Viraha Agni. Then we come to Kam Agni, Krodh Agni. Kam Agni means the fire of lust. Krodh Agni means the fire of anger. In Mahabharata there is one nice story. One time Dronacharya, he was teaching a lesson to Kauravas and Pandavas, that he was telling that one should never become angry. So he was calling everyone, yes, Bhim, tum batao, Duryodhan, tum batao, Arjun. Then he called Yudhishthir, Yudhishthir, you tell me. So Yudhishthir said, Guruji, time lagega. It will take me time to practice this. He said, okay, tell me tomorrow. Yes, Yudhishthir, have you studied it? Sir, it will take little more time. So after 1 week, Yudhishthir, what happened? 1 week passed, come here. He gave one nice slap to Yudhishthir. What a stupid you are. Still you couldn't practice it. So then immediately he could understand that he is becoming angry. Okay? It's called Krodh Agni. So in anger, a person can do anything. Then comes Pralaya Agni. Sometimes there is a Jala Pralaya and sometimes there is a Agni Pralaya. That is called Pralaya Agni. Then when we leave the material body, so the fire which is put to our head, what it is called? Anyone knows? Huh? No, Antyasti. Antyasti Agni. Okay. Then there is a Yoga Agni. This is mentioned in relation to Dhruva Maharaj. By Yoga Agni, he could perceive the Supreme Lord in front of him. Then there is a Samadhi Agni. That is when Parvati, she went to her father's Daksha Yajna. So when Daksha, he didn't put any invitations for Lord Shiva. So Parvati became very angry and completely she immersed in yoga, Samadhi, and she burnt herself. That's called Samadhi Agni. Then Davanala Agni. We sing every day, Sansara Davanala Leda Loka. So then there is a Kala Agni, fire of time. And also Prabhupada writes, in the forest nobody sets fire, but in the scripture it is mentioned that Vamsha Dava Agni. Vamsha means that bamboo. So bamboo, when there is a friction, what happens now in America, yesterday Prabhuji was mentioning, there is a much forest fires are going on. Okay, this way there are a good number of Agnis are there, but today we are discussing about Jnana Agni, the knowledge of fire. So now if we see today here, the analogy is given how the knowledge of fire burns all reactions of material activities. So Prabhupada writes two types of reaction, that is pious and impious. Prabhupada mentions Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. And there are 4 stages. Actually, if we see the karma, Prabhupada, he quotes one verse that will come across. So there are 4 stages: reactions in making, reaction in fructifying, reaction already achieved, and reaction a priori. That is called prarabdha. Prarabdha means whatever you have now, this body, you can't change. There was one person, Michael Jackson. He tried his level best. He underwent so many surgeries, but still he couldn't change his skin color, whatever it is. So that is called prarabdha. Whatever is there, the prarabdha, that cannot be changed. So now if you go to 4.19, there also Krishna had discussed about the Agni, same. Yasya sarve samarambha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnanagni dagda karmanam tam ahu panditam buddha. What Krishna said previously, that one is understood to be in full knowledge whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said to be sage. He is said by the sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burnt up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So this was mentioned in 4.19. So Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita 9.2, he quotes from Padma Puran. So the verse is Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukam krameneva praliyate Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. For those who are engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified in stalk in the form of a seed, will gradually vanish. That is what is mentioned. And Rishabdev, he explains in the Bhagavatam 5th canto, there is one nice verse, because in today's world, people, they are completely workaholic. Anyone knows what is workaholic? Keep working. Like long back in 1960s, 70s, the Japanese, they were called as workaholics. They were working for 18 to 20 hours, Japanese. So what Rishabdev, he mentions, Parabhavas tavad abodha jato yavanna jigyasata atma tattvam yavat kriyas tavad idam mano vai karmatmakam yena sharira baddha. So he explains how our material cycle is set. what he explains, as long as one does not inquire about spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subject to miseries of arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activities, one has to accept material body. So now, because we are living in this material world, we have forgotten our relationship with the Lord. So here what it is mentioned, that once we come to know our relationship with the Lord, then our pious and impious reactions, they are vanquished. There is one nice story, this real life story in UK, long back, about 20 years back. One person, he was going for his job and he was traveling by a metro train, and there was a minor accident. He was hurt on the head. So when he was admitted, somehow he lost his memory. So when he was cured of that physical whatever he had ailment, so he couldn't recall where is his house. But somehow the hospital authorities, they discharged him. They said, we can't keep you longer. So when he came out, he was asking, who am I? Who am I? So people, they were taken back, pagal hai. They were thinking he's crazy. So he came across one Hare Krishna devotee. So he asked him, who am I? He said, Jiver Swarup Hoye Krishna Nitya Das, follow me from behind. So he took him to Hare Krishna temple. So there he was doing backup service, cutting vegetable. So 1 year passed, and one day he was taking a sack of potato. So the sack fell on his head. So somehow what happened, his mind got reset. All of you know, today you are using super phone. So anything goes wrong, just reset the button or take out the battery, put the battery back. That is what people do. So what happened? Suddenly he could understand what I am doing here. I have a house, family, a job. So he said, yes, I am going to my home. So forgetting the Lord, we are in this material world. So our situation is that we have forgotten the Supreme Lord. So in the Vedanta Sutra, the first aphorism is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now therefore, in this human form of life, one should inquire who he is, where from he has come, what he is doing, what is his relationship with the Lord, where he will go next. So also in Chaitanya Charitamrita there are nice verses in this regard. So when this Sanatana Goswami, he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he made a similar statement, Ke ami kene amane jare tapatraye yah nahi jani ke mane hit hai. What he explains, who am I? Why do the threefold miseries always gives me trouble? If I do not know this, how can I be benefited? In today's material world, like Rishabdev, he said, Parabhavas tavad abodha jato yavanna jigyasata atma tattvam. So material world, Prabhupada explains, more or less people, they are following this, the animal propensities, but there are very few who can inquire. Further, it is mentioned, Krishna bhuli jiva anadi bhirmuk ataevo maya tare deya samsara dukha. It is mentioned, forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by external feature from time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy Maya gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. Again, it is mentioned, Maya Mugdha Jivar Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan Jivar Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Puran. So it is mentioned that when the living entity is enchanted by the external energy Maya, he cannot revive his original Krishna consciousness independently. Due to such circumstances, Krishna has kindly given him the Vedic literatures, such as the 4 Vedas and the 18 Puranas. So if we see in the scriptures, so all the knowledge is there. Only you should know that how to retrieve, like a honeybee. So honeybee has that knowledge. to how to go and collect the honey. Is there a mankind now? We have done so much scientific advancement. Is there a scientist who can make a small drone, and this drone, about hundreds of drones they will make, and they will go and collect some honey from flower? Can they make like that? No. Even if we steal the honey from the honey bees, still we can make sugar ka pani as a honey, but we can't make real honey. Nowadays in India there are 21 brands they are selling honey. Out of 21, 19 brands they are fake, and they are putting date of expiry. There is no date of expiry for honey, for your knowledge. If you go to Prabhupada house, you can see there is one honey bottle Prabhupada used long back. That honey is still there. So honey and ghee, grita, the more they become old, the more they have medicinal value. So this way, what we see, the Krishna has given us all the knowledge. Prabhupada explains in Bhagavad Gita in one purport, just by licking the honey bottle, you can't enjoy. You have to open the bottle to taste the honey. So similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes in one poem, Jiva Krishna Das, Yahi Vishwas Karla Ar Tar Dukh Nai. That one has to understand, yes, I am the eternal servant of Lord Krishna. Then I will not have any kind of misery in material world. So we know what belongs to whom. That's why in the Ishopanishad it is mentioned that Isha Vasam Idam Sarvam Jagat. But very few people they understand this verse. What they think everything belongs to them. That is the misunderstanding. Then here Prabhupada mentions that, but knowledge of the constitutional position of the living entities burns everything to ashes. So what is our constitutional knowledge? What is our constitutional position? Jiver Swarup Hoye Krishner Nitya Das. That is our constitutional position. So also Krishna explains in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a nice verse 11.14.19. Krishna tells Uddhava, again same this comes today's verse, Yatha Agni. Yatha Agni su samsriddhir karotte idhamsi bhasmasat tatha mad vishaya bhaktir Uddhava namsi Krishnashra. Krishna explains, my dear Uddhava, just as blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, similarly devotion unto me completely burns to ashes since committed by my devotees. Krishna explains. So as I told you that our real identity is, Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions, there is one nice verse which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu often he said this verse, often used to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to recite this verse, Naham Vipro Nacha Narapatir Napi Vaishyo Na Shudro Naham Varni Nacha Grahapatir Na Vanasto Yatirva Kintu Prodyan Nikhila Parmananda Purnam Rabdhabdir Gopi Bhartu Padakamayor Das Das Dasanu Das. That is our real identity. So he mentions that I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya or a Shudra, nor I am a Brahmachari, a householder, a Vanaprastha or a Sannyasi. I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar and he is the cause of universal bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. So this way, here today's verse basically, here Krishna emphasizing the relation of the living entity and the Supreme Lord. When this is understood, our pious and impious activities, they are burnt. That is called Gyan Agni. Now today we have to finish little early because of the drama. So we'll come to the commentary of our Acharyas. So Sridhar Swami, he writes, to remove any doubt or misconception that might arise from previous verse. So now I quoted the previous verse, that is Krishna quoted as ocean of miseries. By the transcendental knowledge you can cross over the ocean. It is not so easy to cross over the ocean. So here Sridhar Swami explains, to remove any doubt or misconception that might arise from previous verse, that sins may be crossed over but not absolved. So there is a difference between crossed and absolved. Okay. So Lord Krishna gives the illustration that fire of spiritual knowledge, as revealed in Vedic scriptures, burns to ashes all karmas or reactions to actions, with the exception of the prarabdha karma, which was the karma which one has received the present body, the physical body. So the prarabdha cannot be changed. Like prarabdha means, supposing if you are airborne from Delhi to Bombay, if you decide, no, I want to go to Calcutta, you can't change the flight. Prarabdha means already airborne, means the decision is taken. So you can't take it back. That's called prarabdha. The material, the present body, it is like prarabdha. Then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains, this verse is a glorification of knowledge. What he writes, this verse states, if you are more sinful than sinners. Some people, they say, I am so sinful, if I touch Bhagavad Gita, it will also get contaminated. That is not the case. So here what Vishwanath Chakravarti writes, if you are more sinful than the sinners, but how could a person who is sinful be pure hearted, and without purity of heart, how could he attain realization of knowledge? Actually, it is not possible for one who has attained knowledge to commit sinful acts. Like one who is putting on the uniform, he will not do anything against the law. Similarly, Madhusudan, he quotes Madhusudan Saraswati explains, the word api, cheta are used to show the assumption of the impossible. Though the commission of the sin would be impossible, the assumption is made to show the result of attaining knowledge. So also he explains, knowledge arising from purity of heart destroys all karmas except the prarabdha karma. This verse illustrates the example of samadhim, means blazing. So blazing fire, whatever you put, it will burn everything. Then Baldev Vidyabhushan, he writes, it has just been said that sinful reactions are destroyed by Brahma Vidya, knowledge of Lord and Atma. Now this verse says that even Punya karmas are destroyed by Brahma Vidya. Further he explains, just as blazing some siddha, fire turns fuel to wood to edhamsi, to ashes. The fire of knowledge, the fire of realization of one's own Atma and Paramatma turns to ashes all reactions, including those arising from pious acts, but not the prarabdha reactions. That knowledge burns up all accumulated past karmas, which are like reeds, but not the prarabdha ones. And that knowledge also transforms the actions performed in present life, makes them like drops of water rolling on a lotus leaf, having no reaction. Though the prarabdha karmas are extremely weakened by the influence of this knowledge, they are still situated in the person with realization of Atma by the will of the Lord, in order to preach the proper path of conduct. So then we don't have commentary by Madhvacharya. So Ramanacharya, he mentions, Lord Krishna uses this illustration citing complete eradication of all sins and their destruction to further explain the potency of spiritual knowledge. So here today, this verse, basically verse number 37, so Krishna has mentioned, as blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burns to ashes all reactions to material activities. So we'll end the class here. So we have just 1 minute left. I'm finishing 10 minutes before. So any comment, question? Oh, Hare Krishna. So see Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hari Bol.